Here we are back together again, friends, for another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.
Hi, Scott. My name is Michelle. I'm excited to be on your podcast. So thank you for having me.
Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. AG1 is offering my listeners a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/juicebox to get this offer. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. My Diabetes Pro Tip series is about cutting through the clutter of diabetes management to give you the straightforward, practical insights that truly make a difference. This series is all about mastering the fundamentals, whether it's the basics of insulin, dosing adjustments, or everyday management strategies that will empower you to take control. I'm joined by Jenny Smith, who is a diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal experience, and we break down complex concepts into simple, actionable tips. The Diabetes Pro Tip series runs between episode 1000 and 1025 in your podcast player, or you can listen to it at juiceboxpodcast.com by going up into the menu. The episode you're about to listen to was sponsored by Touched by Type 1. Go check them out right now on Facebook, Instagram, and of course at touchedbytype1.org. Check out that programs tab when you get to the website to see all the great things that they're doing for people living with type 1 diabetes. Touchedbytype1.org. I'm having an on-body vibe alert. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Eversense 365, the only one-year wear CGM. That's one insertion and one CGM a year. One CGM, 1 year. Not every 10 or 14 days. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes and their MiniMed 780G system, designed to help ease the burden of diabetes management. Imagine fewer worries about missed boluses or miscalculated carbs, thanks to meal detection technology and automatic correction doses. Learn more and get started today at medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox.
Hi, Scott. My name is Michelle, and I live in San Diego, and I'm excited to be on your podcast. So thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. It just occurred to me, I don't think people address me usually when they introduce themselves. I think you might be the first person who said, "Hey, Scott, I'm Michelle." Is that possible?
Really?
I don't know. That can't be true.
I don't know.
Yeah. I want to start off, Michelle, by telling you a funny story.
Okay.
Yesterday, I recorded with Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
When I set Melissa's recording up, I was looking at the wrong day on the calendar and set it up as Michelle.
Oh.
So she and I have that kind of preamble conversation that you and I just had about the things you can do and not do and all that stuff. I'm calling her Michelle through the entire thing. So at the very end of this little preamble, I realized her name's Melissa. I'm like, oh, so I say to her, I'm like, why did you not
correct me,
you know? And she said, you'd be surprised how often people call me Michelle.
Really?
And I was like, I didn't realize that was a thing. She told me a little bit about that. We move forward, but then I say to her, look, the file still says Michelle on it. It has your name on it. And I'm looking at it on the screen. I said, so there's no doubt we're going to get lost in the conversation. I'm going to go to address you by your name and look up and see Michelle staring me in the face. And I'm going to say Michelle instead of Melissa. And it only happened one time, you know? So anyway, so we're going on, we're having this whole conversation. We're doing great. And it occurs to me for a minute that she's part of the Facebook group and I want to bump over and just see who she is, right? Like get a visual on her. And when I look, the very last thing that she's posted in the Facebook group, the first comment that I see on her post is you.
Oh.
And so I was like, so that freaked me out. And then I told her and she wasn't freaked out by it.
Oh my God.
I was like, come on. I'm like, this is a bizarre coincidence. I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
The two of you are back to back on the calendar.
Yeah.
Like, which is, already random. And I've had this whole confusion about your name, which is bizarre. And then I go online to see who you are. And when I'm looking at you, the very first name I see under you is hers.
Totally bizarre.
Like she wasn't flipped out by it. And then that threw me off.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I honestly believe there's no such thing as a coincidence. So I don't know, maybe Melissa and I are meant to be friends one day.
I'll tell you right now, my only goal today is not to call you Melissa. So
Okay.
Anyway.
You got it.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you have type 1? Are you the parent of someone with type 1?
I have type 1. And I did the math last night because I never really know. I kind of know I'm like 30-ish years, but I kind of even wrote out my story because I was like, I got to remember this part or that part or whatever, just to prompt me. I have type 1 and I've had it for, I think, 31 years.
Wow. How old are you?
Oh my God, I just had a birthday last week and I'm 62.
No kidding.
Which to me is
Happy
like
birthday.
totally old.
Happy birthday. Oh, listen, I'm 53 and I'm freaking out. So
No, you are always freaking out about your age. I have to say on everything. You're always like, I'm so old. You are a baby.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put my t-shirt on this morning. I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh no, I have to do something. My shoulders look old. Do you know what that means?
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean by old person shoulders?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I can't have that.
No. Oh my God, that's not true.
I already told my wife I'm not against steroids or something.
Just get those shoulders pumping.
I'm like, am I like a testosterone candidate? And she goes, your testosterone's fine. I'm like, but am I a candidate? I feel like you're not answering the question. So apparently I'm not. But anyway,
Yeah.
So 62 years old, diagnosed 31 years ago. So you were in your early 30s when you were diagnosed.
So wait, I always have to do the math. I was 28 when I got married in 1991, and it was like a year and a half later. So I think I was 29 and a half.
Wow. Right as soon as you got married too.
A year and a half later. Yep. And I know what you're going to say. Did he ever think like I should run? Because you say that.
Yeah. Like, oh, damn, I picked the wrong one. Anything like that?
You know, I'm sure he said it to himself at some point because we're divorced now.
You should ask him. Do you still talk to him?
Rarely.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Rarely and barely.
How long have you been divorced?
Oh my God. I think since 2016 it was official.
Okay.
But I was married for 25 years.
Married for 25 years.
25 flipping years.
Divorced for almost a decade.
Yep.
Do you think about him often?
Hell to the effing no.
No. It's interesting.
Ugh.
Do you remember a time in your life where you were concerned for him?
Concerned in what way?
Anyway, like, you know, oh, he looks sad. He looks happy. I'm good for him. He's doing well. Or, geez, he seems moments where you're just like, I want the best for this person. Do you remember any of that?
I mean, I remember when I was married to him. Yes, I obviously felt that way all the time. But since we've parted ways, it's odd, but I don't have a lot of feelings for him. I've actually thought about it quite a bit, how kind of interestingly odd that is.
Yeah.
That I don't have many feelings connected to him anymore.
That's what I was wondering. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not asking for a specific. If you're wanting to give specifics, Michelle, we will absolutely accept them. But without specifics, what was the level of reason for getting divorced? I fell out of love. He stole some money. He was hanging around with hookers. Yeah. Like, where are we at?
Yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes, who is making life with diabetes easier with the MiniMed 780G system. The MiniMed 780G automated insulin delivery system anticipates, adjusts, and corrects every 5 minutes. Real-world results show people achieving up to 80% time in range with recommended settings without increasing lows, but of course, individual results may vary. The 780G works around the clock so you can focus on what matters. Have you heard about Medtronic's extended infusion set? It's the first and only infusion set labeled for up to a 7-day wear. This feature is repeatedly asked for, and Medtronic has delivered. 97% of people using the 780G reported that they could manage their diabetes without major disruptions of sleep. They felt more free to eat what they wanted, and they felt less stress with fewer alarms and alerts. You can't beat that. Learn more about how you can spend less time and effort managing your diabetes by visiting medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Eversense 365. And just as the name says, it lasts for a full year. Imagine for a second a CGM with just one sensor placement and one warm-up period every year. Imagine a sensor that has exceptional accuracy over that year and is actually the most accurate CGM in the low range that you can get. What if I told you that this sensor had no risk of falling off or being knocked off? That may seem too good to be true, but I'm not even done telling you about it yet. The Eversense 365 has essentially no compression lows. It features incredibly gentle adhesive for its transmitter. You can take the transmitter off when you don't want to wear your CGM and put it right back on without having to waste the sensor or go through another warm-up period. The app works with iOS and Android, even Apple Watch. You can manage your diabetes instead of your CGM with the Eversense 365. Learn more and get started today at eversensecgm.com/juicebox. 1 year, 1 CGM.
I never wanted to be divorced. I am a divorced child of, parents from when the age I was really young. And then my mom was remarried and then she got divorced from him. So that was the last thing on my mind. I don't think anybody goes into marriage thinking, oh, one day we're going to get divorced. So I really thought I was going to beat the odds. And I kind of picked this man thinking his parents were still married up until a few months ago when the father passed away. So I kind of really thought the odds were good and going in our direction correctly. And we had 3 kids and all while I was type 1. And I think he started becoming very disinterested in the family situation. Like he would sit and watch TV and eat his chocolate chips and stuff like that. And we'd be all sitting at the dinner table eating dinner and he would be very non-interested in anything we had to talk about or do or anything. He was very much a solo person. When my kids were in a lot of athletic sports and 3 girls, completely different sports. So I was pretty much all over the place. Field hockey and lacrosse with this one, swimming and water polo with that one, horse riding with another one. He was, do I have to go to the game today? I mean, parents would ask me, where's David? And I would just say, he's playing racquetball or something, probably.
Do you think it was one of those things where he's like, I couldn't have just got one boy to play football or baseball or something?
Oh my God, hell to effing no. He never was interested in sports. The only thing he was ever interested in was Formula One racing.
Oh, well, how the kid's going to do that at a young age?
Yeah.
They could have been pit crew members.
He actually practiced he went to Skip Barber racing school and did all this crazy stuff. He would put the kids in the car and me and drive like a freaking maniac. And it was scary.
God.
It was actually scary a lot of the time.
He's not doing the thing that he wants to do, right? So he's I'm assuming working every day, throwing his money in a pile. And then he gets home and he's like, none of the things I enjoy are my leisure time. So now this begs the question. You let him out of that. You're like, all right, you don't want to do this. Don't do it. Did he go do those things? Is he driving a Formula One car for fun or anything like that?
Well, first of all, you made up a lot of assumptions that are inaccurate. So he never was the kind of man who went to work and then came home. Literally most of our marriage, he either had a job or he didn't have a job. And it was pretty much 50-50. I don't know how many times he came home with a box in his hands going, I got fired today. Legit, my communication back to him would be like, okay, it's not meant to be. Something better is out there for you. We're going to get through this. But it happened more times than I can even count on 2 hands.
That sucks.
That wasn't it. It was a very difficult situation. He just wasn't the kind of person, and actually when we even met and we were both dating and, living in New York City at the time in Manhattan, I was working for a huge pharmaceutical company. I'll just say Pfizer. And I was in sales at the time and I won this trip to Sausalito, blah, 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 Northern California. And he had gotten fired from his job there. And at the time I was 28, that's 27, say. And he was just a year older than me. And he's like, well, I'm going to rent a car and drive down the coast. I said, cool, I'm going to go back to New York and go to work. And he drove down the coast, landed in Del Mar, the cutest little town ever, in San Diego County, and called me from a payphone, because back in the day, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And just said, I found the cutest little town in the world. This is where I want to live. And I just was like, okay. So that was the start of it, kind of. And then I ended up moving across the country, changing my life because that's what he wanted to do. We got married, yada, yada. But basically, that was already job 1. And it just continued throughout our marriage.
Wow. That sucks.
But no, he actually, after our divorce was final and everything else, he moved to Thailand.
Okay.
Yeah. And he, kind of went off the grid a little bit and did that for almost 2 years. And mind you, we have a daughter that is just 18. So, she was 16 at the time or 15, and he took off and went to Thailand and moved. So he just does whatever he wants to do. and that's all about him.
Well, yeah, it sucks. I mean, a lot of that. That's what I was saying. When you said he moved away, in my head, I was like, wait, I don't think the kids are that old.
No.
Yeah. Well, so he just looked at him and he was like, girls, listen, I'm leaving and I'll see you. And that was it?
Yeah. Well, actually, my youngest daughter was even living with him at the time. I mean, we live walking distance from one another. Like she could,
right,
like a 10th of a mile away from one another. And she would come over to my house and go to his house. But she liked his house for a while because absolutely, and I mean 0 with a big fat Z, no rules.
Right.
You can come in and stay and you can have your friends sleep over and you don't have to go to school if you don't want to. And if you feel like drinking vodka in the morning for middle school, hey, have at it.
Wow.
So,
Michelle, you seem like such a normal person.
I am.
How did this happen?
I don't know.
Be honest. When he said, I'm driving south, you go head back. I've hooked my wagon to your work trip that you've won. And now it's time for you to go back and make more money. I'm going to hang out for a little longer. You know you shouldn't have answered the phone when he called you, right? Like looking back, you're like, oh, he was breaking up with me. I didn't realize it. No?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Oh my God, I never really thought
Sorry,
about
I don't want to bum you out. But like, you should have been like, what is this? You're where? Oh, I hope goodbye. like,
oh my God, I think you're probably right. That was the number one sign. But instead, I was like all Google-eyed at the time. Well, I will also say, okay, so I was living in New York City right out of college in Michigan. I went to my first job in New York City. Didn't know a single soul, like boom, landed in New York. I'm there for a few good years. And I was there for a total of 6 years. But I dated quite a bit. The man pool there, it is small. Let's just put it that way.
So was being married a goal?
No. Oh my God. No, it was never a goal just because probably being a child. But I really, and I mean, my biological clock was bam, 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 ticking away.
I see. Yeah.
I wanted to be a mom more than anything on the planet. And I really did want to find a good man to do this with. So I found this like Jewish man that I thought was going to
I've heard
forever.
Stories. These Jewish guys are good guys. I'll be all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this one because the other one that I really, really, really wanted to marry, I thought drank too much. And this one didn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with this one. If I'm a betting person, this one's going to be having more staying power for me. And that was all wrong.
It's crazy.
I mean, I'm in touch with his mom and we connect all the time. And she always says, I'm so sorry. I can't even believe this. I don't know who he is. And I really apologize. Like, I can't even believe you had to put up with him.
That sucks. All right. So,
yeah.
Well, it was nice of you to do. I appreciate that. I just think it's interesting. Like, all that stuff that nobody talks about ever. Nobody ever talks about stuff like this.
Well, he actually moved back to San Diego just recently in the last few months because his dad was 90 and he was going back for his dad's 90th birthday party. And his dad passed away 2 weeks before the birthday, but he'd already had a trip planned. So he came and then he found a job. And now he's telling his kids, because I kind of hear it through them, he's going to stay for another couple of years and work his butt off now and then go back to Thailand and retire.
But only enough time to get some money so I can get away from you again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't bother him, so I don't know what the hell. But
that's really something. Well, I mean, all right, diabetes. So you get diabetes. Yes. You get diabetes. You're freshly married. You get diabetes. You haven't had a kid yet because you said you had all 3 kids while you had type 1. And what's the management like back then? That's regular NPH?
Yeah, NPH and R.
R. Okay. And you're doing that insulin for how long? You remember?
I actually don't, but I do want to tell you a little bit about my diagnosis story. Can I tell you that?
I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, okay. So I was a pharmaceutical rep in San Diego working for Pfizer still. I mean, I actually, I quit my job in New York City and they were like, don't quit. I said, well, I'm moving to San Diego. And they said, well, we're going to be opening up a new division of the company. As soon as we open it, we're going to bring you back in. So in the meantime, it was like 6 months, but I went to work for a different pharmaceutical company in between for a few months. And then when Pfizer called me, I went back to Pfizer. I'm working. And the first step is I went to Bali. My ex-husband and I went to Bali for our first year anniversary. And we're there and I'm having the time of my life because I'm a very spiritually oriented person. He was not and still is not, but I am. I'm kind of introducing him to my world and, it was fantabulous. We're in Bali and by the last day of our 14-day trip, I am sick as a dog. This is where I think it starts. Mm-hmm. So I get on a plane and literally I have to lay across the floor in the back of the plane because I am just not well at all. We get back to San Diego and I went to the doctor and it was like a series of tests, just nonstop. And one of the things they said was, I had a hard time breathing. I had shortness of breath. It was like a lot of different things. I had anxiety. It was a cluster of, I don't know, all these symptoms that I'd never had before. And the doctor finally said to me, they put me on an inhaler for asthma, which I'd never had in my life. And by now I'm 29. And, she said to me, did you buy any bedding or anything while you were in Bali? And I said, yeah, I had custom made a blanket and 2 pillow shams for our bed. And she's like, get rid of it. I think it's that. I got rid of that. Didn't help the situation. Just things
that's
got
a shame.
worse. Yeah. I know. All that.
That's all I could think about. I was like, oh no, you threw away the custom bedding?
It was an entire suitcase full of stuff that I had to throw away. And I was like, completely depressed about it. But I'm not going to belabor the point, but it went from one symptom to another. And basically they were like, well, you're really anxious too. We think you have generalized anxiety disorder. So they started giving me Ativan to take. And mind you, and I don't understand, but now I'm going to get to the point where I was working at Pfizer and I'm calling on a physician as a client, talking about my medications. And he goes, hey, you look like you've been losing weight lately. Have you been trying? And I said, no. And he goes, no, I think you have been losing weight. He goes, put out your hand. I put out my hand. He puts a Kleenex tissue over it and it's like shaking. And he goes, I think you have hyperthyroidism.
Okay.
And he goes, I think you need to go get a blood test. And I go, well, I'm getting tons of blood tests because something's obviously wrong with me. And he goes, well, this is what I think it is. Tell them to look more closely at that. So I do. And they go, oh my God, you have Graves' disease.
Okay.
And so I go, okay. And meanwhile, my eyes were starting to bug out of my face, like Barbara Bush eyes.
Yeah.
And they were really dry. Like they wouldn't shut at night and I'd wake up and they'd be so dry. And I was like, this is so uncomfortable. And I was losing weight, but I just thought because I was a runner, I'm like, I'm running all the time. I live in San Diego. The weather's always nice. There's no excuse not to get out there, like blah, blah, blah. They diagnosed me with that. And then they say, you're going to undergo radioactive iodine therapy. We're going to stick you on Synthroid and you're going to be good to go. And by the way, I will point out my mother's mother, so my maternal grandmother, did have a goiter at one point. So there's a connection with that. So I had the radioactive iodine therapy. I think I'm good to go. And I didn't let you know yet that I've been trying to have a baby and it's not working. Everything I tried, intrauterine inseminations, nothing was really working. Meanwhile, I got pregnant 5 times, 5 pregnancies before my first child.
Oh, gosh.
And all of them did not make it. They were varying degrees of very early on, but I was, you're pregnant. And then no, you're not. And I even went to go see a reproductive endocrinologist, capitalizing on the word endocrinologist who, I think would know something about type 1 or anything in between. And he just would say to me, oh my God, you're in such good shape. You're always just so thin and you look great and blah, blah, blah. This is before my type 1 diagnosis. I just kept having miscarriages and he was helping me have a baby basically back then.
Yeah.
So this is in 1994-ish. I kept losing weight after the Graves' disease diagnosis and the radioactive iodine therapy. So this is back up to 93 in the fall. And then my brother, who's just a year and a half older than me, so he was like 31 at the time, was killed. He was murdered.
Oh my God. How?
Yes.
Wait, I can't believe you didn't get that diagnosis from the doctor and say, this is wonderful. Who's going to apologize for putting me on Ativan? And which one of you is flying back to Bali to buy me a goddamn pillow sham? Like seriously. But how does your brother get murdered?
Oh my God. Yeah. So my brother, who I was really, really close to growing up, because it was just really the two of us. My mom would go off to work every single day. My mom and dad were divorced when I was like 1 or 2. We were super close, but he, kind of got into drugs. And by kind of, I mean, he got into drugs. So, and I was always the kind of person, like legit people would offer me drugs. And even like in college and I'd be sitting around in bongs and I would be like, nah, no.
Not for me.
No, thanks. But my brother was like, yeah, bring it on. He was a very hard worker. He worked every single day. He was just such a hard worker. And he had this girlfriend who he was engaged to for a number of years, and we could not stand her. She had a couple of brothers, I think 3, that were just bad dudes and all in the drug business. And my brother broke up with her and broke off the engagement and moved out of the house that they had bought together into an apartment and started going to NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous, and started trying to pull his life together. The next thing we hear it's December 4th, 1993, and he's dead. And I was in California. I'm living in California at this point. My mom calls me and says, Marvin's dead. And I said, what? How could this be? And she said, yeah, he was killed with a gunshot wound to his heart in Detroit. And I was like, oh my God, this is, obviously the worst thing on the planet. So it was horrible. The girlfriend, literally the next day, we pulled up to the house that they had together to get some of Marvin's things and like talk to her and, talk about the service and this and that. She had just come from getting a manicure and she was carrying this typewriter because back in the day, that's what we used. And she was already filling out paperwork on the different insurance policies she had out on him. One of them had taken place. It had a 30-day, and then all of a sudden it was kicked in, and it was like 31 days that he was murdered. So we had found out she took out an insurance policy on that. She had, part of the house. They both worked for Chrysler, and she was in the HR department, and he didn't take her off his beneficiary status to put to my mom yet, which he had said he was going to do since he had broken up with her, but it didn't happen yet. So she got some money. There was some kind of a monetary situation going on. And I presented all of it to Detroit Homicide, Sergeant Reginald Harvell at the time. And he just said, sorry, we don't have time to investigate. There were 7 murders last night in Detroit or whatever. We don't have time for this, blah, blah, blah. They went to, do their due diligence, I guess, and interview people, but all of them were at the service the day that they did their interviewing. So nobody could answer questions and they moved on. That was the end of that. Like I even contacted the Department of Justice. The sergeant called me and said, we have never had anybody from the Department of Justice contact us. And I said, well, you don't know me. And I think you guys did a terrible job at this. And you need to, make amends and figure this out and open it back up. And they never did.
Wow. Listen, you're not making any of this up, right? Because
no.
You ever stop and look back and go, whoa, it's been a ride?
Oh my God. Hell yes. All the time. I'm like, I am a freaking ass.
Oh, I'm going to diverge for a second. Like I somehow tripped on a YouTube video recently where like it's a voiceover and there's this animation, right? And the animation is this person telling a story and the story is clearly contrived and made up, right?
Oh,
and it's got just millions and millions and tens and 20 million views. And I'm like, who's listening to this? Like, because every time the story changes, it's the most like ham-fisted out of a TV show change. Like it's clear somebody's just making this up to keep you in the video longer, right? Like it's it's clearly what's going on. As you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, this is very much like that video. And I think sometimes people's lives are so much crazier than we would imagine they could be.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
Especially, I think if you actually know me, you would never believe any of this.
Right. No, I get that. It really is fascinating. It's why I love talking to people because they'll tell you things and you're like, oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, first of all, I'm sorry. I know it's been a long time, but I'm sorry that happened. And the person that murdered him never brought to any kind of justice?
Zero.
Okay.
Well, we're pretty convinced it was one of her brothers.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that on a podcast and get yourself in trouble, but like,
Oh, I don't care.
Michelle, listen, I have to be honest. If you get sued over this, it'll be great for my podcast. I want you to know that. Okay. So it's all right with me.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, because then all the stories, it'll be like she was on the Juicebox podcast talking about her diabetes and then suddenly, but wow, that's terrible. Okay, so, but that happens and then where does your life pivot off from there?
So then I'm not diagnosed yet and it's December of 93. And I remember going to my brother's service and wearing this black suit. And the jacket was really special. I had bought it in New York City, so it was like really different, but it was huge on me. And I was even like, oh my God, it's so big. Like, what? I guess I am really losing more weight. So I go back to the doctor. At this time, it's January, and it's right around my birthday, and I'm 30. 29. I can't keep it straight. 29 or 30, whatever the hell I am. I weigh 106 pounds, and I'm 5'10". I know that when I got married a year and a half early, I was 132 pounds and 5'10".
That's a big difference.
So I had definitely lost a lot of weight. And I went to one of the endocrinologists that I called on to just say, hey, is something up with me? And he goes, we should probably check you for diabetes. This wasn't my actual physician. This was just a doctor that I called on because I was selling at the time an oral hypoglycemic agent for type 2 diabetes. And so I mentioned it to him and he's just like, yeah, let's check your glucose. And it was like 475 or something.
Okay.
And so they're like, yeah, we think you have diabetes. We're not sure if it's type 1 or type 2, I think because of my age back then. And so they put me on like an oral hypoglycemic agent for a week and nothing happened. I still was high. I was finger pricking. And then they're like, no, we need to put you on insulin. But they didn't give me any education. They're just like, here's the bottle, here are the syringes, have at it. And I remember my first low, I was shaking so hard and I didn't know enough. This is crazy, but I was injecting myself with insulin when I started shaking and I ate sunflower seeds because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I mean, I had zero education.
They're not going to help.
Yeah. So I was like, what? So anyway, I figured it all out. Like I got some diabetes education, yada, yada, but it was a long road after that. And then the doctors were like, oh, this is probably why you're not keeping the babies. You have diabetes, blah, blah, blah. This is why you keep having miscarriages. Now that you're going to be under control, we're going to, I think everything's going to work out, but it still really didn't work out. I had a couple more miscarriages after like maybe the diagnosis. So I had 3 before probably and 2 after. And then I did an in vitro fertilization, frozen embryo transfer, and it worked. And that's my first daughter who was born in 1995. Wow. And she is now 29.
Awesome.
And then I had 3 more miscarriages. And then I had my daughter, Nicole, born in 1998. And at that point, I was like, okay, we're good. We're not going to have any more babies. This is the thing. And the doctors were like, you don't worry. You had so many problems getting pregnant. You're not going to be able to keep a baby on your own. Like I needed progesterone suppositories. I needed tons of medication to keep the baby in there. They're like, don't worry. You're never going to get pregnant on your own. And bingo, 7 years after like 1998, I got pregnant again. And I was 42 at the flipping time.
Oh my God. Hey, real quick, where does a progesterone suppository go? Which front or the back?
Front.
Okay. Thank you. Keep going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I would like stand on my head. Like put it in, stand on my head for like 20 minutes and then go about my business.
Let it melt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so my third daughter, the shock and awe, was born in 2006.
Jeez.
And I was 43.
An easy pregnancy?
Yeah. The first 2 pregnancies, they were like 6 pounds and 7 pounds, very normal pregnancies, I would say. But they took them. Oh, the first delivery was a nightmare. But, she's here. So that's all good. But it was like a disaster. So the second one, they did C-section. And I did get preeclampsia at the end.
Yeah.
My blood pressure rose up pretty high. So they took the babies a little bit early, like 2 weeks. That was it. And the same thing for the third one. They just scheduled a C and took her 2 weeks early and all good to go. Yeah, but she was heavier. She was like 8 pounds, 15 ounces.
I've seen 2 uneventful vaginal births and they were still disasters. I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is there a possibility that you didn't have any time to notice that you and your husband weren't good for each other because you were so busy trying to make kids?
So this is what I would say. I didn't want an only child. I really wanted 2. And it wasn't as noticeable back then that he was so distant from us.
Okay.
He wasn't like I don't know how to say it. It wasn't all that noticeable. And we were like buying houses, selling houses in San Diego, making a boatload of freaking money, selling it, to make more money, to buy another house, to do this whole thing. So we had this like great, wonderful, big, beautiful house on a canyon with a huge pool and blah, blah, blah. We were kind of doing all that while all this was going on.
I see. I'll say something that will probably get me in trouble with somebody listening, but I don't understand people who don't work. Like that thing, that throws me off. I don't get like not having a job and not looking for a job at the very least. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's even what he's doing or not doing, but I know people who do that and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Or they have a job that it's terrible and getting laid off all the time, or it doesn't make any money, or you don't get like, and they don't look for another one. Like, I'm not saying you'll even find one, but like, I don't understand the not looking part.
Yeah. Well, I think he would look. I don't know. He has a different personality. I think he's definitely on the spectrum. He would be a loan officer, and then he would be a this, and then he would be a that. By the way, he went to NYU. Like, he's not stupid, undergrad. And then while we were married and I was working, I said, you're going to get your MBA. Kind of like, we need to like prop you up and everything. Mm-hmm. And so he went to San Diego State EMBA program, which is on the weekends. He got his MBA. So this is not a stupid man.
Oh, he just can't keep the job once he has. He gets bored.
Exactly. He can't keep it. And I don't know, obviously I'm not inside, but
Yeah.
He even started a couple of companies. He would always be like, we're going to make $20 million off this company. And so there were a couple of years where he didn't collect a paycheck at all. And I just worked. And by then I'm working for Eli Lilly in pharma, selling in oncology, bringing home the big paycheck. And he was not collecting. And then at the end of the 2 years, he got fired from his own company. He had like 49% ownership and the other guy had 51 and boom, gone.
So no money for 2 years, putting his ass into this company, telling you, don't worry, honey, it's coming.
Yes.
Go pay for everything. You're paying for everything. Yeah. And at the end, he comes back and goes, oh, that didn't work out. I got fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fun stuff. And then I will say, so I inherited from a great aunt who almost lived to be 100. She was 99 and a half. She was also this wonderful aunt that gave us the money for our frozen embryo transfer and everything that we did trying to get pregnant because she could never have children.
Okay.
And I had this remarkable relationship with her. My first daughter's middle name is Iva after her. But anyway, she passed away at 99 and a half, and I was one of the recipients and beneficiaries. So I received a good chunk of money. And so I said to my husband at the time, and his mother actually said to me, Michelle, if you keep working and making all this money, he will never realize his potential. And she had all this like, he is going to be so amazing, Oh,
wait, you're holding him back by being successful?
100%.
Oh, geez. All right.
So she said to me, you need to quit your job. And literally, I was always like kind of thinking like, I don't want to work full time. I want to work part time, like da-da-da-da-da. I actually went part time in oncology. And that was the first time they'd ever let anybody work part time in sales. I was kind of taking a step back. I really wanted to be with my kids. I wanted to be a mom. Yeah. That's what I wanted to be. So here I am working my butt off and da-da-da-da-da. I finally say, I got this big whomping check. I am going to quit my job. And I tell him, I'm quitting my job. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to pony up and figure this out now. You have your MBA. Yeah. I can connect you to pretty much anyone you want to be connected with through all the kids' sports and all the people I talk to and blah, blah, blah.
But the gravy train is over. Yeah.
Yeah. And by then we're in the house that he really wanted to be in. And we had made a lot of money off of our sale of a couple other houses that we had that we were brand new and blah, 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 blah. So by the time we sold them and put all these upgrades into them, we made a ton of money, to be honest, because it's San Diego. Mm-hmm. And it's a good area. It's like the best school district in like our whole area. So anyway, I quit and I stay home with the two kids and, I'm being a mom and he's kind of out there in the world trying to make it happen. And he did for a good chunk of time, he got a couple good jobs, mostly through my connections, and he was bringing in the money, and then I just started realizing more and more though, like my third child, I definitely would not have had. By then I was already thinking I didn't want to be in the marriage, but she came along. And so there she is.
My goodness. That's crazy. All right. So the rest of it is this. What about your diabetes? What did you do? How did it work out? What was the progression? Where are you now? How did you figure out what you were able to figure out?
Honestly, the Juicebox podcast helped me a ton. I remember I even sent you an email one time. I was like heading out to dinner, but I was like, I have to send him an email and tell him like blah, 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 how much he's impacted my diabetes with just all the podcasts. And I listen to your podcasts like almost every single day while I'm walking my dogs in the morning. Mm-hmm. So it's like a treat for me. I don't just listen to it around the house or anything. It's like I'm walking the dogs. I listen to your podcast. Just a lot of things have helped me. Insulin now is for later. These little things that I have in my head like every day.
Yeah.
But it took all these years. But I have been listening now for several years. And I always love when you say, you're older. How did you hear about my podcast? I'm like on TikTok, I follow you. On LinkedIn, I follow you. On X, I follow you. I'm like, I'm on all these social medias that you're on and I follow you. But I learned so much from like the whole tug and war thing, everything. I think I brought my A1C down so tremendously with your tips.
No kidding. That's awesome. Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you telling me that. But secondly, as a person who sits here most of the days trying to figure out ways to get information like that out to people, it's good to know that it's working. I'll take a little bit of a left turn for a second.
Yeah.
I'm forever trying to figure out how to reach more people. Mm-hmm. And I've been lately thinking a lot about all the people I see in more professional spaces, more professional than making a podcast, who are out there blowing their own horn and congratulating each other for all the things they're doing for people with diabetes. And then the next thing they tell you is that people's A1Cs are an average of this, and we don't know how to, they're not coming down, and we can't, teach people how to use their insulin and blah, blah, blah. So they congratulate themselves over and over again for all the good work they're doing. but then point out that the good work needs to keep happening because people aren't having the outcomes that they need to be having for good health. And I just look at that and think, how are you congratulating yourself? Like, what is it you're congratulating yourself for exactly? Is it for trying? Because in a lot of situations, there's no success at the end for the people. Like, you tell me you're helping them, but then the people are still not helped. And you look back at this podcast and you're like, well, this is what helps people. Like, simple ideas, easily communicated, that you can recall when you need, make application to your life, watch things actually get better, then get to a place of stasis where you're not constantly fighting and you're having outcomes that you would call successful. I've sometimes correlated that with downloads. And I have had it in my head for just years, like more downloads, more devices, more people listening, that's going to be the measure of success. And very recently I've thought, it's maybe possible I've just made a type 1 diabetes podcast as big as a type 1 diabetes podcast can be. And the reason it's staying so successful and stable is because there are new people coming in all the time. But the fact of the matter is that you're not likely to hold on to a 10-year listener on a podcast about type 1. Don't get me wrong. Some people have been listening since the beginning, but isn't that the measure of success, that somebody comes, finds it, and then leaves? And that's tough because my metrics are telling me make bigger numbers, and their metrics are, if I can walk away from this and be healthy and happy and not think about this again, then I won.
Right.
And if that's what I want for them, then I have to adjust my idea of my own success.
Yeah, I think reframing in this situation is important.
Yeah, I just found myself really coming to grips with it, no lie, over the last couple of days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you kind of say, oh, downloads. And literally, I don't usually download, but when you're like, we're this many downloads away from blah, 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 I download the heck out of everything.
Streaming and downloading is all the same. Obviously, if you're like, oh, I'd like to help with 10, you can't listen to 10 in a row.
Yeah.
And I genuinely appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate it. But like, bigger picture, look at you. You're 62, right? You've had diabetes for 30 years. You've lived through, a significant amount in your life.
Yeah.
And when I asked you about your diabetes, I thought you were going to tell me that you were listening for community, but you're not. Like, you listened for management.
Well, I listen for management, but I also listen because you entertain me. Like, you can talk about, I don't know, like a puddle on the freaking sidewalk, and the way you talk about it is like so entertaining to me.
I appreciate that.
That I listen. Like, people even say, "What about this podcast?" I'm like, why? I can listen to Scott. He entertains me about anything. Like, honestly, there was even a time when I was on an airplane and I was having a lot of anxiety with the takeoff and the landing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what can calm me down? And I put your podcast in my ear and started listening to your voice, and you calmed me right down.
See, can I tell you, I'm going to sound like a baby, but that would make me cry if I thought about it much longer. I'm in a 12 by 12 room, Michelle, making this thing. And I don't get out of here very often because I'm making it all the time.
Yeah.
It's really touching to hear that, because I don't see myself the way you just described me.
I'm such a super fan, honestly.
Thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
I really am. It's just like, you have a gift. You have such a gift, and I love what you're doing with it. And I even love like where you came from. You're like missed 50 days of high school because you were working in the factory, and like all the stuff that I know about you based on different conversations that you've had with people and where you've come to. Like, I am in amazement of what you've been able to do. And, you're talking to these physicians who are bringing information to us that's just been amazing. But you talk on the same level that they do. I've been in pharma, so I know, like, you are on the same level as they are. And what you've been able to bring yourself up to and make it understandable and break it down is like truly a gift.
Thank you. I've always just thought that it's the blend that ends up being how it worked out, right? Like, I try not to say this because I think I don't want to talk about it, but like, they gave me my first IQ test when I was in kindergarten. Yeah,
I remember hearing about it.
Somebody like whipped me out of a classroom and said to me like, hey, we want to give you this test. It's going to measure how smart you are and blah, blah, blah. But I grew up in a poor family.
Yeah.
Of like blue collar people who did not have big expectations for themselves or for me or anything like that. And they certainly weren't looking at education like a golden, bullet. No, nobody was thinking that. So I speak the way I speak because I grew up around people who were hardworking people who didn't have time for bullshit. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they weren't going to nice things up, or there just was no time for that. You know, at their core, reasonably good people too. You know, my dad cheated on my mom and they got divorced, and, you know, people yelled, but people loved each other. And like it's everybody's life, but we just did it on no money and no polish. Nobody had been polishing us up. I've mentioned a million times over, as I grew up, when people would discuss problems or situations, I would always think, like, why are they thinking about it so wrong? Like, why is this question being asked and those three people are coming to one conclusion and my conclusion is so much different than theirs? I don't know. Like, I just think my brain works one way, but I communicate another way.
Yeah.
And then Arden gets type 1 and I realize no one's going to help us.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'll have to figure out how to help myself, but I don't have any education. I don't have any formal understanding about how to problem solve, like nothing. So I figured out with, you know, the tools I probably learned growing up. And it turns out that once I understood them and I could speak about them thoughtfully, they're very transferable to everybody because they're not shiny and they're not overeducated and they don't require you to know big words.
Right.
And you know, and everybody can understand them. So, I mean, that's it. Like, you can make an argument, Michelle, easily that, like, I'm not really saying anything that's all that difficult. And I would probably make that argument too, that like the stuff I talk about diabetes is not like it's some crazy, well-kept secret that only, you know, the Illuminati understand about type 1. Like, and some people will ding me for that. They'll go, he's just talking about bolusing and timing and stuff like that. I'm like, but those are the things nobody talks about. And that's why so many people have problems.
Yeah.
And so, again, going back to the beginning, so for all those people who are out there in the professional world patting each other on the back, breaking their arms, patting each other on the back, right? And then nobody has a good outcome. And then someone like me comes along and like, here, just try this, and it works for them.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah. Stop congratulating yourself for being so smart and not actually helping anybody.
Right.
I'm an idiot, but I know how to bolus and time insulin.
Yeah.
And I know how to talk about it. So that's pretty much it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I love it. I'm wearing a T-Slim Control IQ and a Dexcom G7, which I just got. So when I got the G7 around Christmas time, I also got the Apple Watch that has my blood sugar on it. And then I just recently got the Sugar Pixel. I'm all squared away with everything. So I just wanted to throw that in there for people who want to know.
Oh, awesome. That's how you're managing. Yeah.
What's that?
How you're managing, what it is you're doing.
Yeah. What I'm doing. You know, I think I'm a 6.1. And do I want to be in the 5s? Yeah, but legit, my doctor was like, when I first came to him, I have Kaiser. He's my endo, and he was like, "What? No, you must be getting low all the time." Like the typical stories that you hear all the time. But I'm like, no, this is where I am, and this is where I'm going to stay, and blah blah blah. But I do want to tell you about my Ozempic stuff.
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay, it was a couple of years ago, and I had been gaining weight steadily, and I got up to. From when I had diagnosed at 106 up to 183, obviously 30 years later and 3 kids and blah, blah, blah. But I was extremely uncomfortable. And I said to my regular physician at Kaiser, you know, I really need to lose weight. I think this is, you know, my diabetes is a contributing factor, you know, yada, yada. I really want to be on one of the GLPs. And she was like, okay, well, first you have to go 1 full year of trying other medications first. And so like one of the first ones she put me on was like a fen part of the fen.
Oh, but that thing that gave everybody all the heart troubles, fen?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was the fen, the good part that didn't kill people as much or something of the fen.
It was the fen, not the fen?
Yeah. So yeah, I took it. I shook like I was going crazy. And then it was like 5 days of hell. I stopped taking it. I didn't tell her I stopped taking it. But I got through that, you know, and then I said, this one didn't work. What's the next one? Then she prescribed it. Then I went and bought it. Then I brought it home and said, not taking it. Going to use it for the 30 days. Tell her, what's next? We did this for a year, like kind of a game. Like, I'm just going to say I took it and I'm not going to go on this crap. And I'm just going to try my hardest. I do a lot of yoga. I walk my dogs a lot. I live in San Diego, 0 excuses to do anything. And I do exercise a lot. So, but I wasn't losing the weight at all. And so finally, after a year of all these trials, quote unquote, put me on Ozempic. I'm just on 0.5. It's been almost a year and I've lost like 13 pounds or 12 pounds.
Awesome.
And she won't let me go any further.
Why?
Like she's like, nope, you lost enough. And actually on my prescription, it says it's because of GERD.
That's why they got you the Ozempic for the reflux?
Yeah.
Has your reflux cleared up after the weight loss?
No.
Oh.
It's still there every single day. And if I forget to take my medication on time in the morning, literally by like noon or 1 o'clock, I can feel the burning. So I know I need a higher dose, but she won't prescribe it.
Let me make a suggestion, perhaps.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell her that you want to switch to Mounjaro? Because you've heard that Mounjaro helps more with reflux.
Does it or no?
Oh, it does.
Oh.
Well, for some people. And it also has a GIP in it, which might help with more weight loss. So it's possible that you'll get a little more weight loss with it. Also, I get why she doesn't want to move you up. Like, how much do you, do you have any weight to lose now?
I weighed myself this morning just for you. 169.9. Now I've shrunk. So I'm like 5'8.5". I think I have weight to lose. And by the way, when she was on a vacation, there was another doctor standing in for her and I talked her into the higher dose. So I went on for 1 month prescription. She wrote 1.0. I got down to 161.
Oh, well, just go to the other doctor.
Came back and said, no, she should never have done that.
Go to the other doctor. Just make an appointment with the other doctor.
I can't go to her. She's full.
I would.
Believe me, I want to.
Yeah. I'd be banging on doors. It sounds like your doctor just doesn't understand the vibe. So like,
I know. Yeah.
Why don't you look for another doctor?
I know. It's in the Kaiser system. It's such a tough system, to be honest.
Other ideas include, but are not limited to, let's think. I don't know. Look for another doctor seems like the first step. Try to get on the other schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, is this doctor not open to conversation? Why don't you just say, like, look, what do you care? Like, it's working for me. And this is what I want to do. Just let me have it.
She told me that she felt pressured by me.
Oh, God. What are you still? You're still in San Diego?
Isn't that your issue, not mine? Like, what?
Yeah, you're in San Diego still, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, she can't take it. The you asking for a bigger dose?
Yeah, I guess not. She's like, you really have been pressuring me. I'm like, well, I think I have legitimate reasons to be asking for what I'm asking for. These are not,
right. How's it helped you with your insulin sensitivity? Okay,
yeah. So I will say this, which is, I think, important. So thank you for asking me. When I first started on it, I really had to lower all my profiles and everything by almost half.
Yeah.
I was getting hypoglycemic all the time. So my daily insulin went from like 40 units down to like 20. And so much better, unbelievably better. Now that I've like gained the weight from 161 just for that 1 month up to 170, let's say, it's been a rocky road because I can't adjust as appropriately. Like for some reason, it's not really dialing in as well.
Yeah. Well, that's your reasoning then with the doctor. Like, I'll use this much less insulin. If you let me have another, another, I don't know, 0.5 of Ozempic.
Yeah, 0.5
a week, then I'll use this much less insulin every day, this much less insulin a week, this much less insulin a month. I mean, what are we talking about here? Arden, the other day I looked at Arden's stuff. I hadn't looked at it in a while. She's not even using a full dose of Mounjaro. Like, so the lowest dose of Mounjaro would be 2.5. And we milk it into a vial and take out some. And so last week we were giving her basically the equivalent of like 20 insulin units worth of Mounjaro. Okay. And I know that sounds weird, but like I don't have another way to measure it. So that day anyway that I looked at on her insulin usage, she ate 125 carbs in a 24-hour period and used 16 units of total insulin, basal, and bolus together.
Wow.
Her insulin sensitivity is up to like one moves her like 110 at this point. Carb ratio back in the day could have been anything from like 1 to 4. Like that was about it. 1 unit covers 4 carbs. Now I think it's 1 unit covers 9 carbs. And her basal during the day is down to like 0.75 from 1.2.
Wow. Yeah, she's had a huge.
Yeah, she's not too thin. She can still eat. Like it was a bit of an experiment there for a while. For a while, it was like, just give her the whole pen, and then she couldn't eat and she lost too much weight. And we're like, all right, well, that's not okay. So, how do you figure this out? Do you spread it out more? Well, you can't, because the half-life, of the medication, I think I take it. I really think it's only really, really effective the first 4 or so days for hunger and stuff like that.
Me too.
Right. And then I said, the doctor's like, well, why don't we spread it out? We'll shoot it like every 10 days. I'm like, I don't know. Cause like 4 of the 10 days, her blood sugar is going to be all over the place. Cause we're counting on the drug to help with, everything else. And so then somebody who listens to the podcast told me I was going to microdose it. Like, this person's like, on my own, I'm going to give myself a little bit of it every day. And I thought, I don't know if that's right or not. Like I have no idea. But I'm like, how do you do that? And then she's the one that told me about putting it into the vial and then taking it out again with a syringe. And I was like, oh, then I could give her less once a week.
Yeah.
Oh
my God. Yeah. That's something I could think about, to be honest, because I definitely notice after 4 or 5 days, it's like I take mine every Friday, but by Wednesday, my blood sugars are getting high. I am getting an appetite.
Yeah.
That's kind of voracious. And I'm getting uncomfortable. Like, just, I don't like it at all.
My bathroom habits are way better in the first 5 days of the injection than they are in the last 2 days of the injection. I don't even know why that is. Like, just,
Yeah. I will definitely say I am so constipated on Ozempic.
Oh, magnesium oxide, do 800 a day. Oxide, has to be oxide. You can start with 400 if you want, but I would, you certainly could. But if you're looking for a bang for your buck situation, I would do 2, like 800 milligrams a day till you make the poopy. Then maybe you can go back to 400 and see. And then also, I just put out that episode with Dr. Hamdi. If you haven't listened to it, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but it's on ready for me.
He's going to tell you how very important muscle training.
I know. I read the synopsis. Yeah.
And protein is going to be for you.
Oh yeah. No, I've lost so much of my muscle tone. I can tell, like doing yoga, I'm just like, oh my God, why is my...
He said something that, I've heard people say versions of it, but he said, you shouldn't, in my opinion, he said, you shouldn't be on a GLP if you're not doing weight training.
Yeah. I believe it. I mean, I really do. Well, yoga is my weight training, but I know even my daughter who weight trains all the time is just like, Mom, no, you have to be going to the gym and doing weight. But I work full time.
Yeah.
And I have my 18-year-old living with me and 20 million dogs. And I'm just like, oh my God, how am I going to make it to the gym?
Like body weight squats, little like dumbbells, like just keep your muscle tone up and trying to grow. Like you don't have to try to get jacked up, obviously, or anything like that. But just
no, no, it's important. I know. Yeah, believe me, I read that synopsis about that one coming up, and I was like, but now that it's out, I'll have to listen to it.
He's also going to talk about in there that he thinks that in the short, not in the long term, but in the short term, injectable GLPs are going to be overtaken by oral medications that are GLPs that are also maybe mixed with other items that are going to help lose weight without losing the muscle.
Oh, wow.
There should be a lot of shifting in this space, in the short term.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's such a game changer, honestly.
Oh, it's insane how it's helping. But we're on if you're doing this right now, you're on the tip of the spear. You know what I mean? So like you're going to run into problems and you're going to have things that you're like, oh, I wish that wouldn't have happened. You're out ahead. And me personally, time's not on my side. Like I don't want to wait 5 more years and be 58. And like, then the pill comes out and I'm like, oh, fine. Like I got to get moving. I like TikTok, you know what I mean? Like I'm only going to be here for so long. Michelle, I'm going to talk about this like in more length, probably in my next like weight loss diary. But I had to go out the other night. It's freezing cold here, by the way. Like
I was just in Michigan for 9 days. I know.
Terrible. It's freezing cold. I just had to run to the store and I was like, my God, like what if I just didn't, So I went to my heavier coat. I have this like a Carhartt like winter jacket, right? That I bought to go to. I bought it to take my son to the Obama inauguration.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
wow.
The first one. I have a great picture of he and I like in front of the Capitol, like you know what I mean. Like
that's so amazing.
Yeah, for the inauguration. Anyway, not the point. I mean, that's how long ago it was. Is my point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't wear it that frequently, but I have worn it in the last year a couple of times, shoveling snow, stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm going to get out that jacket. I pull the jacket out and I put it on, and I look like a little kid in his father's coat.
Oh my God, I'm sure.
And I turned and looked in a mirror, and I was like, oh my God, like. I still am running into these moments where I'm like, I didn't know how fat I was. Like, I really, how did I not know? It's the overwhelming feeling. Like, how did I not know how the situation I was in?
Yeah.
I took the coat and I could take the right side of the coat and put it under my left armpit and the left side of the coat, put it under my right armpit.
That's bonkers.
I wore it to the store so I could feel how ridiculous it felt on me. It felt like a hoop dress. Is what it felt like. A really heavy, warm hoop dress.
Yeah, no, you've lost. I mean, I just listened to your last that ended in January 2025. So just recently, I think you lost a total of 70 pounds. Is that right? So far?
No, it's like 57. I think you probably have the number switched in your head. But like even that, like going back to the download problem, like the jacket reset me because I was like, oh God, like I'm in this fight weekly that's like between 179 and 175 pounds. And in my head, like, I feel like, oh God, like today I'm 178. Like, oh, I got down to 174. I was like 174. I was like, oh, I'm almost there. Like I literally was like, not the number, but my body fat at 174. I was like, 5 more pounds and I'm done. Like I don't have any more fat to lose. It's going to be awesome, you know? And then like, you know, you have something salty or something, whatever, and your body reabsorbs, or you eat on the wrong day of the 7 days, which does happen for me with the Zepbound. Like in the first 4 days, I could eat a brick and I wouldn't gain weight. And then in the last 3 days, if I have something that's, you know, not quite good for if it's just something salty, for example, I'll put weight back on. You eat that salty thing on day 2 and it doesn't happen. I don't know why. It's just how it's working for me. Anyway, I feel like I'm having this battle that I'm losing all the time. 3 pounds this way, 4 pounds that way, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the jacket made me go, oh God, dummy. 178, 175, 174. Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
You won anyway, because like, you know.
Just really got me. I was like, I've been so far in this micro fight for so long, I forgot to macro this one thing. I forgot to step back and go, oh, you've lost 57 pounds. You know, so.
No, it's remarkable. I mean, your face looks totally different on all the.
It's insane.
You know.
Genuinely insane. Media. Yeah, I just, like, I look at myself and I'm like, I don't even see that as me.
Yeah.
It's really, and it's
God.
All that look stuff apart. It's been wonderful, health-wise.
Yeah.
Pain-wise, you know, like my time, because you're not so like you're not thinking about like what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like even socially, we do different things socially now, because socially used to mean like go to a restaurant. And now, you know, now it doesn't mean that as much. And it's been a benefit in a significant way, in a multitude of like variables have been impacted.
Yeah.
It's just really been awesome.
And I know Kelly's on one too, right?
I can't even believe like that's her at this point.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't talk about her weight loss, but yeah, that would be hers to talk about if she wanted to.
But she's doing great on it. She's
doing so well.
Aw.
And it's helping her with other things too. Like for instance, her perimenopause has been really impacted by the GLP. It has been easier because of that.
Wow.
We also really think it helped her with a lot of her long COVID symptoms.
Oh, wow.
Because of like kind of more anti-inflammatory properties maybe. But all we know is like she got into this spot once where her regular doctor was like, can you just go off that GLP for a week? And she did it. And she's like, what a huge mistake. Like, what a terrible week of like sweating again and like pain and my, you know, like muscles and like all that stuff. And she's like, I just shot it back in again. And that stopped happening.
Yeah.
So
no, when I went to Michigan recently, just in January, I just got home for 9 days to like take care of my mom. I forgot my Ozempic. And actually I was flying out on a Friday and that was the day to give myself a shot. And I was like, oh shit. And then I didn't have it for the next Friday, but I was coming home on Sunday. So I had a week without it. It wasn't fun. I mean, I wasn't having those kind of side effects because thank God I'm past all that. I was just uncomfortable. I was hungry. I was thinking about food. My blood sugar was all over the place. I was like, this is such a show.
I know. There's plenty of people who will listen to this and go, you're cheating, you're blah, blah. I don't care. I genuinely don't care what you think. It's helping so many people in so many varied ways. It's just all like, it's awesome. Have you ever considered, like, do you have PCOS? Have you ever figured out the reason why you couldn't have those kids so many different ways?
I don't know. They said it was I had a super thin uterine lining and my progesterone levels were low. So who knows? Oh. Like the babies that I was like the pregnancies couldn't embed. But like one time I was 4 months pregnant and lost the baby. So who knows? That's
crazy. That's terrible. You've been through a lot. You have a really great perspective. How do you think that happened? Like, why am I talking to an upbeat person instead of somebody who's like, because you could have told your story so much differently. My husband did this happened. He left us. He left my kids after we got divorced. Even the way you talked about your brother, it was more about from an empowerment perspective. Like, I did this, I tried to push them to do that. Like, it wasn't like this thing happened to us and then it was sad. Like, how come you talk the way you talk?
I think it's just my personality and who I am.
Yeah.
But I also, like, my mom is a very strong driving force in my life. I talk to her every single day. And when she passes, which will be probably pretty relatively soon, it's going to be a huge punch in the gut for me. I think I just have that's just my perspective, like, honestly. And I have a spiritual connection. Like, it's not a religious connection at all, but it's just more like I mean, I am super thankful that insulin was even invented, because if it wasn't, I mean, I'd be dead at the age of 30 and Arden wouldn't have ever lived a life. Like, this is all amazing. So I kind of keep that perspective as much as I can every day, to be like, this is another gift. And like, look where I get to live. Pretty phenomenal. But I also do a lot of yoga, and yoga is, people say, oh, I can't do it because, I'm not flexible. It has zero to do with flexibility. Absolutely zero. It has to do with your breathing and focusing on the moment. And then you just do the movements, and people can be bad and good and everything in between. There's just no judgment there. Like, it's an hour of just no judgment. You just go there and you breathe and you come out and you feel better. And it connects me to everything the rest of the day. I mean, I don't get to do it every day because of work. I mean, there was a time just recently where I quit my other job and I had 8 weeks between positions, and I did it every single day. And I was like in heaven. It just helps to reset me every single time I go.
Yeah. Well, I wish everybody could find that one way. I don't care how, like one way or the other. It would be awesome if everybody could find that feeling, because I'm forever having these conversations and wondering in the back of my mind, how come some people have a thing happen to them and they react one way and other people react in a completely opposite direction? I wish I understood that better, because it would be awesome if everybody could have a slice of how you're attacking all this. Really.
Yeah. Well, and believe me, I'm a person with lots, I'm definitely not perfect. That's for sure. And that's one of the best things about it. Like, I don't ever strive for perfection in life. I gave up on that a long time ago. Like, I had eating disorders as a kid, like bulimia and anorexia and everything. I was just always trying to be perfect. And like, I gave it all up, and I was like, this is so much better to be in this place.
Well, good for you. Do you have any idea how you did that?
Probably a lot of therapy.
You did have a lot of therapy?
Yes, a lot of therapy. Yeah, a lot of therapy helped me through everything. I mean, I had got my master's in marriage, family, and child counseling, like counseling psychology too. I just think, kind of learning along the way, taking little steps, baby steps. Nothing has to be a big step. Just like all these little things I kind of go through on a daily basis are kind of just keep me going. But I really don't take any days for granted, because I do really think like I was meant to die 30 years ago and I'm still here. And it's for a reason. Like, even as my job that I'm doing right now, I mean, part of my focus every single day is to bring joy to people's lives. And I know that sounds cornball, but like, I work with seniors and this and that, and I really try to make them feel good about themselves. And, and it's genuine. Like, I'm just like, this is awesome. We're all still here on this planet at the same time. This is remarkable. Like, this is great.
Yeah. Just this simple idea of like, I can't believe any of this is even working. Like, we're really genuinely lucky to be here.
Well, 100%.
Yeah. No, I know. I hear you. Like, there's how many planets just in this solar system, and we looked at all of them, and no one's living on those. And the randomness that it all works is. I have the same feeling you do.
The brink of where we are. Like, look, even in diabetes, like, just amazing. Yeah. So. It's just amazing. Yeah. My mother's mother, I think I mentioned her earlier, who had the goiter, also had diabetes. They never really knew if she had type 1 or type 2 or anything. She was on syringes when she died at age 67 of a heart attack, which is pretty close to my age. They found all these syringes, which were like glass and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh my God, they were huge. No wonder why every time I visited her as a kid, I would go to her house and she would be laying in bed with like a wet cloth on her forehead and a candy bar next to her and an orange juice next to her. And I was just like, what a horrible time she was kind of diagnosed, because there was no education. There was no Juicebox Podcast. Let's be real.
Yeah. It just, the information was not great. The technology wasn't great. The medication. It is crazy, right? To look back and see, look at how she was suffering from a thing that I'm no longer suffering from. And I mean, 2 more generations, what could it be? Like, could it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure.
They haven't been back on to talk about this story, but if you've heard the episode of the mom who came on to talk about the young girl who, started taking the GLP and her insulin needs
heard it.
Kept going down and down and down and down. The mom texted me yesterday to say that they're considering going to every other day basal insulin at this point.
Oh my God,
and the kid's doing 1 unit of basal a day.
Wow.
So who knows for how long that's going to work for. But for this time that she's getting, like, awesome. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Like, just really wonderful and awesome. And who knows, like, what we'll learn from that, or, what could help, or if in the future it's not going to be like, oh, you have type 1 diabetes. This is terrible. Here's the GLP pill. Here's the insulin.
Yeah.
Here's your CGM. Here's what we're going to do. And then you go off and eat a normal, like, you don't have to make any like crazy changes to how you eat. And you're using 16 units of insulin a day as an adult and an A1C in the low 6s. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know?
And less hypoglycemic events and hypers. I mean, come on.
Right. No. Even like if none of that stuff exists, that islet pump and the way that they're leaning towards that algorithm, like it's a normal meal, a smaller than normal meal, a larger than normal meal.
Right.
What happens when they dial that in better and better?
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my grandma died like 45 years ago. She didn't get any of this.
Of course. No. And so you feel lucky for having it.
Oh my God. 100%. I mean, yeah. And oddly enough, like, well, none of my 3 kids obviously have it, or I would have mentioned it. And I have 14 first cousins, 0 have it.
No kidding.
I don't know anybody else in my family who got lucky enough to get it.
Just you.
Sometimes you have doctors on who are like from San Diego, and I'm like, who are they? Because I want to go see them. But I mean, like, do they have clinical patients that they see?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they do or they don't. I never really asked them. I just feel lucky that they're willing to come on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a guy, doctor that was just on recently, right? And I don't even get him without another person. Check this out. So eventually you'll listen to the episode that I'm going to give people the episode number. It's Dr. Hamdi, episode 1411, GLP Essentials. He talks a lot about muscle training, GLPs, future of diabetes, stuff like that. Really learned guy, works at Joslin, on staff at Harvard, like that kind of stuff. I was invited a number of years ago to go to a private event for a specific religious group of people who do their own diabetes event for themselves. And I was the speaker. And there was a second speaker. And he and I, met over the 2.5-day event. We chatted a little bit. I don't know that I ever saw him again. And a few months ago, he sends me a text and he says, I would love it if you would consider having Dr. Hamdi on your podcast. I really think it would be valuable. And I said, thank you. And I reached out to the doctor. The doctor only says yes to me because he knows the person who put me in touch with him. And like all this kind of like stuff tumbles into place. And then he comes on and gives that amazing interview. To me, a person who, like, if I would have just reached out cold and said, hey, can you come on? He would have been like, no, go away.
Exactly.
And I've done that, by the way. Like, trust me, there are people who have given presentations on different things online. And I thought this person would be awesome on the podcast. And I reach out cold and I'm like, hey, my name's Scott. I run this podcast, the biggest diabetes podcast in the world. They don't care. They're like, what is it? It's meaningless. But if one person says to them, you should go do this, boom, they're off and they're doing it.
Yep.
So even that, like, I don't know anything about this yet because this is an email that's arrived while you and I have been speaking. And maybe this will be nothing. Like it could be a big nothing. But an RN/BSN sent me an email and said, hey, I wanted to send you a recommendation for a physician associate I know, and gives the name. He's been using regenerative medicine to help people with type 1, type 2 diabetes, decrease hemoglobin A1C, reduce glucose, titrate down insulin, and in some cases come off completely, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know if this is like hocus pocus, if it's nothing, if it's I have no idea, right? I'll dig through it and try to figure it out. And if it seems valuable for everybody, then I'll reach out and try to make it happen. If it doesn't, then I'll ignore the email. That stuff all comes from people helping me in return.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Like, you can say, oh, you had all these doctors on, but like a lot of them, I found some of them, but some of them were found for me. So it's just,
it's the connections you've built.
Yeah, right. It's become a hub. Like the podcast became a hub somehow. So I rely on people doing that. And anyway, they come on. And my point is, I don't know much about them when they come on, other than they've got this set of skills and they're willing to talk about it. So,
yeah, but you have an amazing way of like getting through and figuring things out and taking people on different roads. And so we can learn. And I love learning from you just by the questions you ask people.
Thank you.
Like, I apply that in my daily life sometimes. Seriously.
I swear to you, my entire life, I've always thought when people ask questions, they ask the wrong questions, or when they get an answer, there's an obvious follow-up question and no one seems to see it.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that.
That's great. But what about this part? And, that's where you get the story.
I think that's where your real skill lies.
Thank you. I don't know what else. My son believes that too, and tells me that I'm being held back by having the word type 1 diabetes in my podcast. He goes, I think you'd be a bigger podcaster if people didn't think it was about such a niche genre.
Yeah, he's probably right.
And I said, I don't care. I'll finish with this. Because I just had this conversation with my son. Like, part of the reason why I kind of pulled that thing out of my butt earlier about people are out there saying they're helping, but not really doing anything, is because that was part of a bigger conversation I had with my son this morning while we were having breakfast. And the rest of it was this. Somebody asked me recently, how do you continually help people like this? Like, how are you actually sustaining this and keeping this going and making it last for years and years and years? And it's having the same or better impact as you go, which is a real question I got asked by a medical professional. And what I told them is that I am willing to do the unsexy, repetitive part of this. And that's what nobody else wants to do. Everybody wants to move up and get better and make more money and get a better position. And I'll do this and then I'm going to do that. I found a thing I'm good at that helps people, and I do it every day. Like, that's the thing I've done. I've dedicated myself to this part of it, not to making it something else or bigger or turning it into something or, trying to get wealthy from it or something like that. Or, I'll write a book or I'll do this or, I'm going to branch. No, how about this helps people every day? Like, somebody needs to be doing this job right here.
Right.
So my willingness to just get up every day and do the thing, like, you know what I mean? Like, the shame of it is that the only thing that's popping into my head right now is it's time to make the donuts, which seems inappropriate. But that idea of like somebody gets up every day and does the unsexy stuff. The same way as like it happens in government too. Like, the people in government, those people are bullshit. Like, but there are real people behind the scenes making sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and the things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I sort of see my part in this like that.
Yeah. If you were a drug, I would call you steady state.
That's it. We just want to keep doing this thing. This thing works. It needs to keep happening. If I stop doing it, it stops.
I know. It would be so depressing.
Yeah.
I would just be bonkers.
Well, I'll keep doing it for you. It stops because of some of the things that you've mentioned earlier. Like, who knows? Like, why do you like listening to me explain something? Like, who knows? Like, it's just random that it worked out that way. So so keep doing that thing. I told my son at the end, I was like, it just takes me back very simply. And I know that by now, either people just don't even know who he is or they have like a weird connotation about him. But I grew up listening to radio, listening to talk radio. When I was a junior in high school, Howard Stern came to Philadelphia and I started listening. First with a Walkman that had an FM radio in it, which, by the way, was a boon if you had an FM radio in your Walkman, in your cassette player, And I listened and I listened and I listened, and it was just a guy who knew how to keep a conversation going, and he knew what was interesting and what wasn't. And if things got boring, he'd pivot and he'd ask people questions that I never heard anybody else ask a question to. And like, people will point and say, like, he had porn stars on or this or that. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? He's the first guy I ever heard ask a porn star about their life, not about the sensational part about why they were there. Like, he was talking to them like they were just like everybody else. Like, she was a librarian, and then they'd give these answers and I'd be like, my God, that's interesting.
Right.
Like, is that how she got here? Like, is that the path? And so I found that really interesting. But he would give people this bit of information. Like, famous people would come in and they'd say, like, well, yeah, I have this great job on this TV show, but it's been going for 7 years and it's getting boring and I'm bored and I'm going to leave the show. And he'd be like, no, stupid. Show up and make that show every day, because this is going to end one day. And over and over again, these famous people would not take that simple advice. Like, stop thinking there's greener pastures somewhere and that you're meant for bigger things. You're doing this thing that people really seem to like and they enjoy it and they want it and almost need it sometimes. And like, you're going to stop doing it because you're bored of it or because you think there's more. And over again, I'd watch these people just disappear.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of interesting.
And what I thought is the same thing. Like, shut up, get up, go to work, do the thing you're good at.
Right.
And that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I say it. So.
Yeah. So wait, let me ask you a quick question.
Please.
What year was Arden born?
2004.
Oh, okay. So she's like 2 years older than my youngest. I was just curious.
Born 2004, diagnosed 2006. And yeah, that's it. And she's going to be 21 this summer.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. In my mind, she's like 18, 19. I know she was switching from one school to another.
Yeah. No, trust me. That's about worked out now. But yeah, you guys are a little behind on my life, like because of the way I do the recordings. But yeah, don't worry, you'll catch up eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the last 6 months of the show, you'll get to where I am, like right before I stop. But I really don't want to, like, I just had conversations the other day with someone about trying to make a a community outside of company controlled spaces. So like the one thing that I'm always worried about is the Facebook group is awesome, but it's controlled by Facebook. Right. And so like if Facebook just decides one day to pivot, or that I did something wrong, or that you did something wrong in my group and therefore or whatever, I'm like, it goes away, and it helps people so much. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get that kind of space that's outside of control of like a Twitter or Instagram or something like that.
Yeah.
To support
people. What about YouTube? No?
Again, you say something they don't like, they'll make sure the algorithm doesn't put you through. And I have no luck on YouTube to begin with, because I'm not pretty enough, and I don't do the like, hey, like I don't do all that stuff. Like that draws people in, which I'm not going to do. I am going to sit down and maybe tell more of my story on video of like how I built this whole thing. Like just so people listening know how it's gotten to this point, because it's been going on for so long now that my concern is like, to some degree, like I think I've just become the guy behind the curtain that makes the thing for some people, instead of like the people who were around in the beginning who saw us like building it all up together, you know?
Right.
So I'm going to try to revisit that a little bit. But no, I just think that there needs to be a place where people can convene and talk that's not controlled by the whims of government or social media companies or stuff like that.
Especially now.
In general, just like, I think it's been like that the whole time. So like, it doesn't matter to me which, I've seen Democratic and Republican administrations, and still I see weird stuff like both ways. So So anyway, I like talking to a company about like, hey, listen, you know, for me, it's too much money. I can't foot the bill for this, but you could, and it wouldn't really be that much. Like, just give me the money so I can make the thing for people.
Yeah. Oh, for real.
And the truth is that that's how I started the podcast 11 years ago. Right? I just said to Omnipod, I'm like, I need you to give me some money so I can afford to sit down and make a podcast. Like, well, you're buying ads. That's what I said. You buy ads on it.
Right.
And they were like, all right. And then they did it. And so that floated me for a year. And don't get me wrong, it was $6,000. They gave me $6,000 in 2015 for ads.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I had just come off and was literally and probably still am to some degree, a stay-at-home dad. So all I said to my wife, I was like, look, $6,000. Let me make the podcast. Basically, and I was like, maybe one day it'll be $8,000, or maybe one day it'll be $80,000. Like, who knows? Like, let's see where it grows to. Like, let me do this. And she was like, cool. Like, it's helping people. Like, you know, go ahead. You know, so I got to do it a little more, and it grew and grew and grew. And so now I'm trying to use that same formula to create another thing for people. And we'll see what happens. Like, sometimes you have luck talking people into stuff, and sometimes they don't see your vision. And, you know, so anyway, I'm going to keep trying that and just trying to find new ways to help people.
No, you're amazing. We're so thankful. I'm just going to speak for all of us. We're so thankful.
Thank you. It's very nice. There are 20 people listening right now. They're hate listening, and they think you're an idiot and I'm the monster.
Oh my God. They're the crazy. We know.
It's okay.
If they're listening and they don't even like you, they're really bonkers.
Hey, I appreciate the downloads. Keep going.
Absolutely.
I'll take hate listen downloads. They're fine. They help the algorithm too. You're actually helping me be more popular. So keep it up. Keep complaining about me on Facebook and everywhere else you complain. I wish those people understood. Every time they complain, they're complaining to a small group of people, and those group of people already agreed with them. But everyone else who's paying attention goes, ooh, I'll go check that out. No, they go check it out. Like when you say something crappy about me, you're driving tons of people to the podcast. And some of them will agree with you, but a lot of them don't, and they stay, and makes the podcast bigger and, you know, more powerful and everything else. So keep it up. Keep hating. You're doing great.
Yeah. That's like, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
If I had to pay somebody for the help that they give me, I think the people who don't like me probably deserve a little more money than the people who do like me. So I really do appreciate you guys. You're out there just doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much. I know they don't believe that, but it's absolutely true. And seriously, like I hope they feel that very deep down at how much they're helping me and how much I appreciate it. Anyway, Michelle, I did not call you Melissa once. Pretty proud of myself.
No, amazing.
Hold on one second for me.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the Eversense 365 for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast, and remind you that if you want the only sensor that gets inserted once a year and not every 14 days, you want the Eversense CGM. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. 1 year, one CGM. Thanks for tuning in today, and thanks to Medtronic Diabetes for sponsoring this episode. We've been talking about Medtronic's MiniMed 780G system today, an automated insulin delivery system that helps make diabetes management easier day and night. Whether it's their meal detection technology or the Medtronic extended infusion set, it all comes together to simplify life with diabetes. Go find out more at my link, medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox. Touched by Type 1 sponsored this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Check them out at touchedbytype1.org on Instagram and Facebook. Give them a follow. Go check out what they're doing. They are helping people with type 1 diabetes in ways you just can't imagine. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If you're not already subscribed or following the podcast in your favorite audio app like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do that now. Seriously, just to hit follow or subscribe will really help the show. If you go a little further in Apple Podcasts and set it up so that it downloads all new episodes, I'll be your best friend. And if you leave a 5-star review, I'll probably send you a Christmas card. Would you like a Christmas card? Hey kids, listen up. You've made it to the end of the podcast. You must have enjoyed it. You know what else you might enjoy? The private Facebook group for the Juicebox Podcast. I know you're thinking, Facebook, Scott, please. But no. Beautiful group, wonderful people, a fantastic community. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. Of course, if you have Type 2 or you're touched by diabetes in any way, you're absolutely welcome. It's a private group, so you'll have to answer a couple of questions before you come in. We'll make sure you're not a bot or an evildoer. Then you're on your way. You'll be part of the family. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.